Grüezi, just quickly for up. This is just the audiobook / let's play version of the Arcaea story. Once it starts, it will go on to the end of the story, of this Jesus Christus und Maria Magdalena, 3,5 Stunden long video. And you better thank me for doing all the work for you. This would take a lot of real life days to go through world mode unlocking all the songs next to the 36 euros it will cost you to buy everything. There will also be an accompanying video to this that explains why this is the greatest story you never heard of, with a link in the description, or it should also pop up there. Well, I guess I'm a bodiless voice in the void, so I can hardly point at things, so...
There!
By the way, this will also follow all the special unlock restrictions you need for songs outside of play X song to unlock this. So technically you could also call this a tutorial to the story if you really wanted to. With all that being said, I guess it's time to start with pieces of glass floating through the air. And this will now be your obvious spoiler warning, as even if I intend to make this feel like if you're actually playing, it really does hit different if you're invested after beating boss track just barely to fulfill the requirement to unlock the next part of the story. And also, I guess, a dispersion warning, as this has some really heavy stuff. This is a story of two girls, of the light and conflict they had awaiting them, and a wide world of memories. It all starts when two girls wake up, one in white and one in black. Hikari, the girl in white, woke up, surrounded by glass butterflies, flying through the air. How pleasant that these figures can move as well. Where are the strings? She sat down on her knees, fixed her dress and looked for them, but there were none. And there were also no butterflies, but shards of glass. Delightful! In the glass reflected another world, than the one in white surrounding her, filled with reflections of seas, cities, fires. Raising her hand to scatter them, she laughed, rejoiced in seeing this. And a name to all of them? Arcaea, but she didn't know, nor did she care with how beautiful they were. Simply touching them, swirling them, and watching them. Wasn't that enough? There were obviously 6 questions. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. But of them, Hikari asked none, as she did not desire an answer. Simply being content to bask in the glow of Arcaea. This was her meeting with a new world. When Taritsu woke up, she was in a ruined tower. The pieces of glass she noticed floating through the air, they led her to the outside, a world of white. White, nothing but white, and glass that somehow seemed attracted to her. So she did what anyone would, and with piqued curiosity, she examined the shards. Looking inside them, she could see glimpses of something else, like looking through the window of a train car. In one it was raining, in another the sun was shining brightly, and yet in another, death. A horrible sight. She grimaced and pulled away. While being attracted to her, when she reached out to them and scattered the shards of glass, they repelled like it was natural for this outcome to happen. Her grimace deepened into a glare, and no longer wanting to look at it, she looked into the sky, the pale sky, and when gazing into it, her glare softened and melted away, with open mouth, but too shaken to speak. Not just one, but many pieces of the same glass, churning, glinting, and turning far overhead, like a storm of glass. A regretful decision she made, but realizing too late, as now that she had faced the storm, it too seemed to notice her, coming down and greet her to this new world she had awakened. Even Hikari, who was naturally content with the world, could not escape the questions to this world. Standing amidst the spiral of glass, she was wondering, but what really are these? Portals? Windows? Memories? Memories. She did not know why, but it sounded inside her, like striking a chord of an instrument, ringing in harmony with the appearance of these strange shards of glass. They are memories. Now that she knew, she felt no longer the urge to ask questions. For some reason, this place, it was filled with memories. Whose could they be, or what could they entail? She couldn't tell for certain, but her questioning had already ended. So she did not ask these questions. For some reason, unknown to her, the glass seemed to follow her. But when trying to hold it, she could not do so. Nonetheless, it still came floating towards her, and then she decided it was on nothing but a whim of hers, that she would now start to gather as many as she could. Piece by piece, and that's the reason she had none. What Taritsu felt was indescribable, a sensation that was just overwhelming. A riptide of glass that neither shatters or cuts, and doesn't even reflect her face, pushing past her an amount that was simply innumerable. with all of them turning and swirling as if pushed by a great wind, all while she stood fast, watching. As the shard passed her, watches, no memories of a filthy world. What is this? As she reached out for them, this? A memory of pain, betrayal, envy. And stopping one meant to stop them all, now standing still in the air around her, frozen in time. She whipped her head. Left, right, this way, that way, everywhere around her. They're only dark. And they're only dark. Regardless of what the shards showed her, all she could see were places with little light there. And whatever yet so small spark of light she could find, they all vanished in an instant. She bites her lip, and then she smiles. A smile that no longer knows any humor. What kind of joke is that? A world filled only with misery? And as she says this, even her bitter smile fades away. With no clock at hand, Hikari could not have known for how long she was wandering this wide world. How many days? Or maybe just hours? But there's a new certainty in her head. There's beauty in memory. That's what she finds herself believing, thinking about. Memory is never certain, can change with time, and yet is the nearest you will get to a piece of the past. It can be bitter or sweet, but in either case, that she is certain of, they are quite enchanting. For now, she will see what memories she can, of all the other places and people, and appreciate them for their beauty. In the first place, these Arcaea, they flicker and glow so splendidly in this world, that without them would be nothing but ruins. It is easy to fancy all of it, and it is made so easy to her, with all of them showing her these memories. Humming, hands aloft, and stepping down paths that are broken, she brings with her what seems to be memories fit for an entire world, following behind her in a shining stream, memories of an ugly world, memories of a pretty world. How nice. She sighs, she smiles, and serenity becomes her.
I'm not gonna lie.
All of this seemed too well, but there's nothing to worry about. A pleasant, simple word like this needs to be pleasant, and nothing more. Taritsu had picked through memories, for, without a clock, she could not know how long it had been, but one she is certain about. It had been quite a long time. For a while she searched the memories. Happy memories, they had to be there. That she hoped for. There were only few she could find, but miserable shards. They never seemed to cease hounding her. So she now came to know all these places that she loathes. She was now standing amidst the spiral of glass, turning around her slowly, resembling the cosmos. She thinks that there are only two possibilities, either the world or perhaps worlds envisioned by these shards were nothing but misery, or since only terrible memories are here. In any case, she decided to rid herself of all of them. Something inside her now switched. Looking at these painful memories, she started to look pleased. She gathered such memories, as it became to her now a gleeful activity. If I can get rid of this trash, or even better, the places it represents. These places, full of chaos and even life, that will make her happy. Hikari found herself in a joyous landscape, walking through this ruined world that still was beautiful, and finding in it things she could admire. While on her long journey, she shepherded the glass that now had become the sky, a mirror bending the light as far as she could see, shaped almost geodescently, a roof, fantastic and glittering, that never leaves her, surrounding her with nothing but fancies and goodness, the world that had become endless bliss. She traipsed down a spiral staircase, once belonging to a manor, but the walls, they have now fallen, and being replaced by memories, but that was all the better. She leaped out ahead, dashing the memories that were everywhere, basking in the sparkles of the Arcaea. When she finds them, and they float up to join the others in her artificial sky, so enraptured now, she laughs in cheer. A flow, a kiss, a laugh, a birth, a life, followed by a new life. Flying past her eyes in a river of glass and merges with the others. She has seen this many times, but that did not matter as it still pleased her. Gazing at the wall above, when coming together they grow more vibrant than before. She smiles, satisfied, before she wanders off again, and as ever, heedless of all the consequences. Taritsu had started gathering shards a while ago, so she grew confident from when she started exploring this world, much of this world of glass and mirrors. and she gathered countless shards from far behind her all the way to her neck. The shards formed a trail like a scarf that seemed of no end. Now, she's standing atop a tower that had fallen, looking out ahead with a smile, the terrible memories of the other places twisting behind her menacing. She was not just looking for anything, but instead a place that had always caught her eyes, but she had refrained from ever going in its direction. It was a sort of distant labyrinth, turning into the sky with ludicrous geometry, and of course it too was more glass, and of course she could feel all of its filth pulsating all the way to her. Although she had yet to figure out a way, she still intended to be rid of all of these terrible fragments that followed her. Eventually, to begin with, that was why she was gathering them. It brought her comfort to know that all the bad would be gathered at one place. That way, one day, it would be all the much easier when she was to clear them all away. And that labyrinth, it was particularly bad. And she felt confident she would gather all of its fragments too. The maze was amidst the sea of glittering, ever-shifting, good memories. As she made her way towards the maze, the sea parted around her, with only selected shards coming towards her, joining the trail behind her. However, by walking this path, scattering the good shards, she suddenly hesitated, flanked by hope, but with despair before her, she shoot on her lip, and her heart wavered. It is said that anything in excess is a poison. The truth, Hikari either didn't know or she simply did not care for it. The girl was not walking past what to her seemed like to have been an old concert hall. The impact of its grandness dulled, as it had been split perfectly in twain, as if willed this way by a higher power. Out of this tomb of sound drifted memories, again, of dances and performances, hopes and victories. But she could do no more than twitching with her mouth. Has it simply become boring? Or perhaps is it something else? When she lifted her hands, the Arcaea still came to her, gently waving over her palm and through her fingers. With a blank expression, she notes them. How many times has it now been that she has seen this formation of love? So frequent it had apparently now become standard in old and forgotten worlds. And then, when she let go of the memories, she still genuinely thought nothing of them. They rise and they fly to join with the others, the memories she had been gathering, and she looked at the destination now. Now it seemed much brighter than the day she started collecting them. It seemed that it was glowing brighter every day. How many days has it been? She winces, and after that a grimace twists onto her face. She shakes it away. Maybe what she was needing was more. Then whatever was missing would be found. She calms herself and carries on, not letting it bother her. No matter what, she cannot push the Arcahv blowing her away. Surely, Taritsu thought, once upon a time things had to have been better.
In a desperate conflict with a ruthless enemy.
The girl remembered nothing, and since awakening in this world of glass, she'd only ever known memories. Because of this, she had drawn many conclusions, this few times doubting them. She had been assured that nothing in this world, and nothing in the glass, felt any worse. Filth and awfulness, tears and pain, a small smile and death. But it had to be, that once upon a time things had to have been better. Often the simple rules are those that are true. Shadows are begotten from light, shadows lurk at her back, and now she was surrounded by light. When she stepped into these waves of joy and purity, she hadn't given it a second thought, being absorbed in evil to such a degree that simple good she had completely forgotten. To be honest, it was more than just her heart, simply wavering now. She was overwhelmed with every glint of hope that caught her eyes. On the way to the jagged maze, she paused and questioned everything. There was an answer she simply did not want to acknowledge. Immersed in the scene of light and chaos, she didn't want to think about it. She wouldn't allow herself to think about it. And, before she really could, she stood before the entrance of the impossible Labyrinth. On impulse, she reaches out for better glass and memories, for flowering fields that came to flow around her in a ring. She did not know why, nor if they would help.
An intense dissatisfaction with the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. Heaven and my guiding star.
Heaven, a word the girl in white used to describe her hell. In reality, idle peace and thoughtless pleasure, they are nothing more to passion than anathema, imbibing and imbibing of happy things in such an endless fashion. All it does make happiness indistinct, blurred and ultimately without purpose. Now, nothing has purpose, and to begin with, she never had any purpose.
Intense dissatisfaction with the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. Heaven, my guiding star.
The sky is almost blinding. Is she still wandering? Is she standing still? She is neither sure nor is it of any consequence anymore. The sky made by herself had her attention, but the memories within, it cannot be sorted out. A haze, opaque and overwhelming. That was all it had become now. Compelling emptiness. She is losing herself. And as she is losing herself, she remained numb to the encroaching dissolution. Though she did not remember, this cage of suffocation pleasure was invited by her, and she locked herself within. Now she lacked even the will to worry. And with the sky growing brighter, she loses even more of herself. And with only little time left, she is staring upwards, as if awaiting her fate. Bright, bright, beautiful above, and engulfing memories overtake her. Her mind whites out. And without meaning, light fades away. And without meaning, time passes. And the girl stares up into an empty sky, her mind no longer there, and thus the story alongside with her. But was that really how this had to end? She didn't know it, but the girl in black had a name, and if she knew it, perhaps she would have never entered the twisted black maze. It may have been a meaningful name, it may have made her doubt much stronger, but she didn't know, and thus she grinned her teeth and she reaffirmed her beliefs. The light from before would not shake her, the light of the flowering, it would not shake her. She entered the dark structure, and from within started to tear it apart. Each wall she pulled away was made of misery. Each facet held horrors, and each corner were comprised of fear. This was a castle of iniquity. Simply put, it was grotesque. This was powerful grotesque. And when the girl did, her grin returned. This was it. Climbing through it, running through it, this was the kind of disgusting monolith that had compelled her into action into the first place. She hadn't been wrong. The glass should only be shattered, the mirrors only be destroyed. And as she pulled gleefully away great swathes of the maze, always tumbling into the air, her smile became rapt. She winced. Something was wrong with her head. At the heart of the maze, there was something worse than any memory before. She could feel it, close and calling her. Enthusiasm had strained, and her progress slow, and spinning in the air, she saw a wicked shard of glass containing the memory of the end of the world. With a hand on her face, she looked into the mirror world. She remembered the sea of pleasant realities below her, and the floors now circling around her. She'd taken down parts of the roof, and the walls had subsequently fallen down, dark glass raining slowly around her, and in the distance the better memories shone brightly. She looked into the end of the world between her fingers, and swallowed, and with newfound strength removed the hand from her face, reaching out for the end of the world, for her collection of memories. She felt bliss. Now that she had toppled this monolith of terror, it couldn't matter now how terrible the memory she would face would be. She was certain of that. She was strong, and she would destroy them all. And so, with a genuine smile and a tired laugh, she came down from the sky, and the tower alongside with her, landing with power flowing through her, and a mere ruin behind her, marching forth with an unwavering faith, that of a hero's conviction. But this was not what the girl had awaiting her.
An intense dissatisfaction with the world. And a compulsion to do something about it.
Hikari was on her knees, her chin brought up, and it is soon that her jagged and persuasive creation will consume her, within its coaxing light of oblivion. Above her it pulses and glows, gentle but insufferable. Thoughtlessly, she nearly lets it take her. And from that was vast nothingness, something catches her eye. Distinct, alone, it breaks her from the lulling uniformity, and her gaze swings to it. A single, special piece of glass, just a bit red, and absolutely noticeable. Perhaps, in reality, or so a trick of her mind. The rest of the sky that it had emerged from dulled in its intensity, and she thinks that it become easier to see, and she thinks, and she realizes that she hadn't thought in all this time. The heavens wobble and distort, and a crack seems to run through them. The whole thing, twisting around the creation of a new memory, a shard of memory that should not exist. It breaks from the whole, and breaks from the sky. Both violently and calmly, the roof of her creation falling down, choking the air and scattering light. A spectacle that would have been magnificent to her, if not for her focus remaining stuck on the new piece, which floated towards her in the frightening chaos of joyous memories. It too is a memory of joy, that of herself, that she has forgotten. She speaks in a fractured voice, from her vocal cords having been neglected for so long. Now in her hands, the odd shard that came from zero resolve, and in it she sees the time she awoke, dancing alongside the glass, traveling the worlds of mirrors, and happy. Tears fall from her eyes, and she remembers that happiness had left her long ago. Twinkling glass pieces fell in an unevenly timed rain, while reflecting dead worlds as they always do. The girl at the center of it all focused on a piece reflecting something original, new, however, of this world still existing. Tears fall from her eyes. Tears fall from her eyes, with a reason yet not grasped by her mind still recovering. She agonizes over the loss of everything she had before, falling all around her, but she also agonizes over the loss of her zeal. The memory reflected showed of a better and ignorant time, as she walked into a trap created by herself, even if she knew where it would lead, the shiftless travels inviting senselessness. Would she have done it all just to be happy? The red in the glass is that of the red in her clothes, and she grasps the shard tightly to add the red of her hand to it. Blurring past and present, running warm over the shimmering surface, she feels again, but she feels so much more than before. She feels overwhelmingly regret. In these times, she almost pridefully moved meaninglessly. She had gathered the Arcaea to enjoy them, and not thought even just a bit to ask why. She had brought on herself a torturous and tedious hedonistic existence, in a manufactured and blinding prison. She had done it all for nothing and nearly lost herself. And to why, there was never an answer. Just to be happy, that too hadn't been it. Collapsed on her knees, choking through her cries, with a memory on her breast she knows. The weight of her arrows, she had surrounded herself in love and life so much that it began to disgust her, and that truth grieves her. In grief, the girl cries, thinking as much as she can about everything that had happened and the meaning it all had. Perhaps Taritsu should have worried because her heart was suddenly in pain. She drew back, covered her mouth, and her eyes went white in confusion. She had been standing on the floor of a gigantic and bitter maze that doubled as a tower, but now she began to fall on her knees, but before she hit the ground, the structure began to break and fall first. The memory of sorrowful days that she had gathered came around her like a cloak, and the tower memories turned from falling slow rain to a downpour. She and the maze fell like stones, and although she should have been terrified, dropping so far and fast, all she could feel was confusion. She splashes down into a sea of fragmented happiness of other worlds. The waves she and the crashing maze caused were immense, glass pushing against glass in a way that could only be described both as ugly and beautiful, and she kneeled at the center of a storm. She was confused because she was hurting everything, and her heart bursted. The cloak of memories she had collected surrounded her in a grotesque sphere. The world of white disappeared in her vision, left with only horror. Heavy, sweating and trembling, she looked into the glass, deeply into the Arcaea, and she became to realize that her heart was breaking. And that her sanity was fading. The memory of the end of the world that she had seen before slowly drifted into view. Taritsu had felt many emotions since her waking in the white, ruined world. Mostly she felt anger, but strangely, that anger she was able to turn into hope. True it may be that she didn't have much of a plan. In fact, she was only walking forward because she believed at the end of her steps there would be something good. She had hoped. She was certain that this chaos was leading into light. She was certain that the traumas she faced, that the horrors she held, could be completely shattered. Yes, she was emotional. She felt so strong that when faced with the idea that no, in fact, nothing had a purpose, and thus she began to suffer. The cruelest fate is to have hope and see it crushed before your eyes, and so the girl sat down on her knees in a malformed circle of death, looking at the world coming to its end. This was the first time she had felt the emotion of sadness, and it was quickly turning into despair. The world of Arcaea was a pointless world. It was a manifestation of worlds long gone. It had no substance, only reflections as such. Even the glowing and joyful memories sometimes she had encountered on a journey were still only memories of the past. Like night comes after day, they had to have led to the end. She now saw spinning slowly before her in the air, Her eyes welled with tears. She had felt so much since waking up. She'd felt joy. Joy left her. She'd felt fear. Fear left her. Anger left her. And hope, it too left her. Her eyes went dark and she could feel a resonance with the glass. The shell of memories around her began to crack and split open. She emerged from it and stood in the blinding light and felt nothing anymore. Even sadness and despair now left her. Around Hikari was now silence. A few small pieces of old times falling down intermittently broke it, but the girl Anguish had settled. No longer did she weep, sitting among shimmering glass, with dire tears on her cheeks and dried blood on her hands. Fear, worry and regret have all now ended, and looking ahead was all she could do. What she had done was misguided. It was, in fact, not guided at all. The idea of happy scenes would only be better was what made her fill the sky with good memories, not wondering if there might be any danger within bringing so many shards together to a single place. She realized now that they had threatened to swallow her. If she wants to press on, she must have a reason. Those old, forgotten questions she once had need now an answer. What does this world mean, and why is she in it? Why are the gentle memories attracted to her? Although she sometimes saw flashes of hardship in the pieces that refused her, who was she? Light comes back to her eyes and she stands up on shaking legs. As she does so, the Arcana surrounded her, and she still looks curiously at them and lifts her hand. So do they. As she ponders, she realizes this is different, but that there is also something different within her. No longer can the Arcana to her unbidden, and she will not allow it to be caged. She wipes away her tears with the back of her bloody hand and lets the shard that had guided her into the new paths follow behind her. She will let that be a memory, and renewed faced with the strange world, she will find all that it is for, be it good or bad. This she swears, and she is certain. Around Taritsu, like an ocean of stained oil, the memories of the cursed labyrinth and the memories she had brought with her fell all and muddled into the soothing glass around her, most of them churning into a grey mass, some suddenly jolting like spikes up from the ground. She went still and slowly looked over every her shard, just counting them. Even when memories came shooting up near her eyes, she continued to count. Eventually, she lifted a finger, beckoning some of the shards towards her, and, with a simple thought, with the shape of a fragile butterfly, the fragments came together. Into the sky, she commanded it, to reflect the world of white, and when it came down again to tell her what it had seen, with a simple thought, she slowly tore each of its wings, and let it fall into nothingness. Then, she walked forward from the corrupted sea, willing pillars of lost time that had entered her path to explode and shatter. Time passes, she changes. No longer did she soar of collecting memories, and mostly absent did she walk through the world. She discovered things about it and herself, but she had no ambitions. Now she walked beside an old and crumbling building, twirling a parasol found in the ruins someday. Silently, a creature formed of glass reflecting bitter days glided down towards her from the sky. It resembled a glistening and jagged crow, and it was something she considered no more than a tool. And after that day, at the now fallen tower, she became more in tune with the chaotic Arcaea, and was able call upon things like this, and in its own way it whispered to her of places beyond her reach. In this blinding white world, glaring at it, she had it burst and fall apart, and she moved on. These crows of her sickened with news the world was empty. That is all they said. That she knew. She'd never find anyone else here. She wanted to. She needed to. But it was not because she hoped to share her fate with someone. She needed to let out her frustration on something alive. She needed someone to be heard. The ruin is as common a sight as any other, but nonetheless, the girl in light pays his attention as she steps through. She's been wondering what the ruins are and why they're there, wondering if this world she wanders has a past, or if its decimated landscape is only coincidental. She feels she has to think about it, so to not to succumb to the bliss of ignorance, if she wants a reason, then it might help to know the world too. Perhaps this is a reflection of another world. She has seen things like this within the Arcaea, but that also makes her wonder if in this place there might be standing towers and buildings that are not ruined. Maybe she's only yet to see them. This ruin seems like it was once large, grand. It must have been a beautiful place, where many people came, so she thinks. But if it didn't have such a past, then it would be a shame. There's only her now, moving through pews and broken candlesticks. There's only her, and she blinks, seeing that there's in fact another person. Somebody else, standing still at her left, before a broken wall. Once she would have grinned happily but carelessly at that person. As she is now, she looks at that shaded covered girl in confusion, but certainly not without a fluttering, insuppressible feeling of elation. Outside of her memory, here, in the world, and before her eyes, is a person. All this time she walked it alone, and here is somebody else, one other living, breathing person. The other girl doesn't notice her. She's standing in place, holding her parasol and sleeping. Her dark figure cuts so strongly against the rest of the world, which shines so brightly in the distance, that she thinks this must be a dream, or perhaps a waking memory. She opens her mouth to speak, and the other girl opens her eyes to consciousness. She, who heralds sad and evil, forgotten things, opens her eyes and witnesses the shame. A white-clad girl before her. That breathing the Lightbearer found so relieving, stops short and the girl in dark squints, lips parted as if she means to question, but she swallows instead and raises her brow, tightening her grip on the handle. Her own twisted elation flows out from her heart, just as unstoppable, but so much more eager. It climbs to her face, and the girl of chaos offers the girl of light an honest, impressible smile. In the unwalled and unroofed church, known only by its skeleton chairs and white candles, the girl in black stands near the remaining old gate, looking at the person she just met. It's actually quite simple. She's been upset for so long, and now a true flesh and blood person is finally in front of her. She isn't thrilled, she isn't excited. The smile on her face is an effortless lie, but it is one she cannot help but to tell. It says to the girl clothed in white before her, "Pleasure to meet you." It means nothing. "What's your name?" she asked in a dry voice. Maybe in the past she'd realized how long it had been since she last spoke. "My name?" name? I'm not sure, replied the radiant girl. Do you know your own name, I mean? She doesn't answer the question. That's something are her only words as she looks off towards the ornated wall. The girl in white gives a bothered expression. This was turning out to be a strange meeting. So the one in black doesn't know, the one in white is beginning to share the darker girl's lack of enthusiasm. Like a fire in a sudden chill wind, her hope flickered and wanes. Now she groans uncomfortably, anxious and wary. A slight but unshakable atmosphere drifts between them, one that faded unmistakably off. To her, it seemed as though their very meeting is something the world finds to be simply wrong. The ever-present glass, now scattered unevenly throughout and above the broken ground, reflected that strange feeling. Ordinarily, these shards would flock to them without their bidding. Happiness, the girl in white. Tragedies, the girl in black. Right now, every piece of glass in the air stands still. Perhaps 100 mirrors are quietly suspended around the girls, half catching images of empty places that surround them. When the girl in white tries to call out to them, they will not waver. It unsettles her. Happiness placed behind horror, equally motionless. The only piece that will follow her is the one she can hold, the one that set her free. She stares hard at the girl in shadows. If we end this together, she begins leaning forward, then what do you think about staying together? We could help each other, maybe? She stops. The girl is staring in the empty, canvas-like sky with a blank and uniformative expression. She doesn't seem to be listening, but in truth she had followed her every word. Maybe, the girl echoes. It's faint. After a reincarnation into misery, her soul itself had felt like a dull, grim abyss. However, when she had heard this proposal, something inside her shimmered, very briefly and very weakly. However, as she is now, even something as tiny as that was able to pierce the shroud of frustration that had been endlessly choking her since she'd reawakened. And the remnant of the girl she used to be, the Taritsu who had first woken up in this world, rebelled against the prospect of the end, against the idea of giving up. She wanted a second chance, but her half-hearted answer isn't enough to inspire confidence in the girl standing opposite her. The meeting reminds careful, caution. The Hikari, who recently returned to her senses, now knows that the world of Arcaea is far more than pretty and far less than safe. And yet, the two girls will speak, with the hope that it will lead to something better.
I've been hearing the cries of angels when I close my eyes. Remember?
The conversation continues. It would certainly be nice if we had names to share, says Taritsu in a fraying voice. Her eyes are again beginning to lose the shine of life. The other girl, Hikari, notices that with some discomfort. Yes, I can say I like to think about it. Not having any memory in a world filled with them, she admits. At the moment they sit on some pew, though not close. They've gone to what was once the front row, and a few steps in front of them leaps up a wide, flat floor. The girl in white is lushed, watching her new acquaintance with worry painting her gaze. The girl in black is examining the empty place in front of them, the sky, the dead and distant grandiose architecture. But she does so seemingly without concern or interest. While watching, she begins to speak unprompted. This glass, do you know a name for it? Huh? Oh, well, for whatever reason, I know the name Arcaea. Same as me, says Taritsu, now looking Hikari's way. So, how are we different? Hikari offers an apologetic smile. I don't know, she says. Aside from a difference in look, let's find out then. What kind of memories do you see in the glass? Almost only pleasant ones. Taritsu sighs. She remarks bitterly, then we are opposite, and looks to her feet. Let's say we are the only two walking around this place. place. If that's true, our opposition could matter a great deal. You don't see happy memories through the Arcaea? Asked Hikari, leaning slightly towards her conversation partner. I'm sorry, that's just how it is, says the other girl. For a short while they remain silent, until Taritsu speaks again. But from what you've said, I suspect even your pleasant memories haven't resulted in a happy life for you here. Well, am I correct? To this, Hikari nods. I don't mean to make it sound as though I've had it rough since waking up, but you see, I once gathered enough pieces that they could cover the sky. When I did, that new sky almost killed me. I feel like the light was slowly eroding my mind. I think it was mainly my own fault, to be honest. They both feel it's better to be honest. After Hikari tells of her naive and dangerous journey based in light, Taritsu coldly recounts her tragic struggles through a maelstrom of darkness. The two are certainly different in quite a few ways, but one definite commonality becomes clear between them: the want of sense in a senseless world. The world around them may be beautiful, but it has also been cruel. Hikari has resolved herself, but it wasn't long ago that her very self had been threatened by this strange place, unfeeling place. For Taritsu, it had left her scared. Persistent, hanging, compulsory towards violence and wrath continued to roll up inside her like tides, even throughout their discussions here, despite her desire to be amicable, smothering each urge from a breast that has been no easy feat. This living, breathing person beside her is too enticing to target, to release her frustration with. The girl in white doesn't fail to notice how the girl in black holds onto her umbrella, periodically tightening into a trembling, aggravated grip. It hasn't been easy, a fact that holds true for both of them. I think I really wanted to meet somebody else, Taritsu revealed. Even perhaps a few months ago, they may have been all I really wanted. However, ever since I stepped out of that black shell, I found it difficult to hold on to such innocent desire. I just can't master it. When my chest isn't feeling empty, I can't master anything in it that aren't vile and wicked impulses. Disgusting, broken things. She looks at Hikari. Even now, I keep thinking about how much I want to hurt you. That's fine, says the other girl. Maybe I'd felt the same way if I'd gone through everything that you did. But I don't think you're right about one thing. I don't think your heart is as broken as you feel. Taritsu meets her eyes as if asking how that could be. Look, you're holding back, explains Hikari. Even now, that tells me that even after everything, you're a very good person. Still, you're strong. She smiles and stands from her seat. You're a lot stronger than me, she says, casting a momentary glance into a brilliant sky. I was rescued, she continues, meeting Taritsu's eyes once more. You rescued yourself. The shimmer inside the dark girl's chest becomes a faint glow, and an ache pulses through her. That's not true, she sings. It isn't that simple, she sings. She failed, and the older her, it died that day when the labyrinth collapsed. She felt nothing after that, and when feeling came back to her, it was nothing but contempt. Even when she met this girl, it made her want to do nothing more than take a blade and run it through her. No, she hasn't rescued herself. However, perhaps she hasn't simply been seeking out someone to harm. Perhaps the truth is that she'd been awaiting something impossible to give her one last ray of hope. Hikari is too meek and unsure to directly comfort her, but her presence and lack of aggression signals this. She may be that last fleeting ray. What pains Taritsu's heart is that very innocent realization. Her posture weakens. Hikari notices and moves to see if she can do something, but she's still unsure, and so she's ultimately unable to reach out for the other girl. She stands before Taritsu with her arms half raised, and in a few moments the girl in black stands by herself. Hikari drops her hands and takes a step back. Around them, the glass sways with their movement, and one in particular begins to shine differently from the other. In its reflection is something familiar, yet impossible. It is a vision that, surely, nobody could have seen. The briefest, wicked flicker of a most strange and anomalous memory. They stand apart, Taritsu holding a hand over her chest, fingers clenched and struggling as she takes heavy breaths. She is reinvigorated, in no small part thanks to the girl in white. Hikari has given her one precious, final reassurance. Does not have to be the end. One last pass out of this white and blinding hell still exists. An open, albeit weak, smile cuts along her face as she exhales. Let's do something, she says. Let's figure out this stupid, absurd world. It's not that stupid, says Hikari in mild protest, smiling herself with just little strengths. She isn't entirely positive about the other girl, but she can tell at least one thing. Despite appearance, she isn't evil. Quite the opposite, it seems. If anything, that alone is reason enough to join hands with this new potential ally. A good person. That is not exactly how she readily describes herself, after all. However, while she thinks this, Taritsu's mood turns. What makes you say that? Asks the panting girl, though her delivery of question sounds more like an accusation. Her eyes are almost hollow, as they bore coldly into her opposite. You might understand it even better than me. This is the kind of place that would break a girl for the audacity of surrounding her safe in pleasure and joy. She stands up straight, calms her breath, and steadies her gaze, bringing the hand over her chest to her handle of a parasol. That's unconscionable, don't you agree? Her strength of conviction puts the other girl down for a moment, but Hikari is no longer one who is incapable of any caring. Gathering a modicum of confidence, she herself stands up straight and delivers her explanation. We are alive, she says, and if a world can permit that, then it can't be the worst thing. Ha! The other girl's glare intensifies. No, if a world can permit life only to plague that life with griefs and ills, then that world is not just. Well, maybe not, but, demands Taritsu, but that's short-sighted. What is it that you want to do exactly? Destroy everything. The world, the glass, all of it. I'll find a way. It's only fair, right? She explains as a matter of fact. I would think you resonate with this idea. What has this world been for you other than an expansive prison? Destroy it? Even if you could, it would only end everything. This is the only world we know that exists for certain, isn't it? If we somehow destroy it, could we not simply destroy ourselves as well? You'd rather die than live here? Why, that's ridiculous. No, that's fine, says Taritsu simply. Hikari, not expecting that answer, falls silent. Taritsu's words were too frightening and far too sad. In her silence, Taritsu continues her interrogation. Do you have some other idea? Some other plan? No, I don't. I want to find a plan with you, amidst the other girl, and dismay is clear in her tone. And Taritsu, in her recent recovery, recognizes it. It makes her pause. It had been too easy to lash out at this new acquaintance. She knew she wasn't being reasonable. Indeed, having just found herself with burgeoning hope again, she could clearly see how cold she'd been until their meeting. And yet, when faced with another's hope, she'd attack. Truly, was she that petty? In the past, this conviction of hers has never brought her satisfaction or peace, much less resolution. No, her willfulness has only ever led her down a dark, thorny path stained with gloom. With this in mind, she extinguishes the fire rising in her heart that had been so sure of its need to burn. If she wants to take the girl's hand, she cannot reject the idea it holds. I'm sorry. She apologizes, her passion now fully relinquished. She lowers her head for a moment. I feel the same. I want to work to find something new as well. Hikari regains a bit of her self-assurance, which had been brought low before Taritsu. She tells her new friend, it's alright, you've had a hard time here. I could probably never understand. But that righteous fire in Taritsu's heart had been just enough. Ultimately, it had only burned for a short moment, like a flash, but it was enough to rile a dormant shard in the flock of glass around them. It awakened and, on its own, begins to drift down to where they are, still unseen. Don't lose hope, says the girl in light. Things can always get better. The shard, shimmering with faded color, comes directly between them. It catches both their attention, but it will only show its memories to the one clad in black. The girl adorned in shadows peers through the broken window into another time. Her smile returns. What a fool she was! Not the girl in white. No, her. The vision in the glass is no memory. It cannot be, of course. What she's seeing is a future that she should have expected. The fool, the idiot dreamer. The glass shows an unmistakable image of herself, run through with a jagged pillar of glass, the wound seeming to sear her clothes and body apart in a blistering, pale and consuming flame. The blank, barren lands of Arcaea stretch out far behind her, and before her, coaxing the pillar with a lifted hand and a blinding, fiery glow around her shoulders, is the girl clad in white, a very familiar one, though her expression is hidden from this vantage. It is the girl standing before her now, the one she has only just met. This is no memory, it is a vision of what will come to be. Faced with this, Taritsu retreats into herself and confronts the one truth she was determined to ignore. Her conviction didn't matter, she will never find anything good for her in this world. Now that last hope is dyed black, drowned in despair, forgotten. What else should have happened? What was her hope for? Idiocy, tiresome, blind idiocy. Tiresome effort, tiresome memories, tiresome existence. Tiresome, awful, sick of it, sick of this. Sick of herself, sick of everything, in this never-ending mocking play. Miracles? No. She said it herself, this world is hell, and she knows it. From the fractured idea of worlds dead and gone, even angels can one day fall, and awaken in demonic form. The girl in light is just like that, in a turn final and damning. What was once a mere pit inside her chest is clawing and spreading. It wastes, decays all through, in an instant leaving, instead, a cold and endless chasm. As the dark within it creeps out to coat her inside and chokes her thoughts, she sees Hikari very clearly. See her gaze starting to the shard. See the panic, the clear knowledge in her eyes. The girl knows, and knows she can't face her opposite stare, won't say a word, though she sees clearly. You are unnerved, unsettled, unabashed, unforgivable. The anger twists into hate and loathing, piling over her and arriving in her eyes. Wicked betrayer, wicked places. She tightens the grasp on her parasol, looking past the shard to Hikari, who is standing still. Frozen in place, surely, because their ill intentions have been exposed. It's worth laughing about. Taritsu's eyes narrows, and she exercises the remains of those burgeoning emotions the girl had begun to cultivate within her. With finality she is entitled, and with that she knows what she must do. But this mirror is still one way, and thus her anger as well. Hikari is unable to see within this peculiar shard at all. Unaware, she can only watch in confusion as Taritsu's countenance strains more and more of color. A sense of danger wells up in her, and so she cannot understand why. She can feel it there. In fact, shadows now seem to be crawling up from the earth. Light perishes at their touch. Darkness nears her, and her breathing shortens. She takes a step back. She almost can't believe it. She certainly doesn't want to. Even after surviving that harrowing ordeal, that blinding light sky, something terrible faces her again, without reason. But still, she had survived it, and now she knows for certain that survival may not allow compromise. With this thought in her heart and mind, Hikari makes a damning mistake. She reaches for the one piece of glass, the one that gave her comfort and direction, in the midst of her lowest moment. When she raised it to the chest, the hairs of the back of Taritsu's neck rise up as well, fear pulsing through her, along with the conviction to never meet with tragedy again. Taritsu closes the distance to Hikari in an instant, without warning, ready to, once and for all, firmly grasp hold of her life. Hikari, Taritsu. If they knew each other's name, if they even knew their own, would that change how they had felt from then until now? Light and conflict, names so lofty in a world so bizarre, so outlandish, would they have considered the meanings and found different paths? Or would have any divergence, any turn or taking of a choice, any circumstance or odd spin of fortune's wheel still have set the two girls into inevitable dissent and discord? Hikari, who still does not know her name, would be unsure. Taritsu, likewise, is however damned with fateful knowledge and knows dissent and discord between them will always be. Nothing will change. Nothing would. The girl in white and the girl in black cannot reconcile. This, all of this, may only lead to... Hikari's voice escapes her when the blade of her foe comes. She raises her hand at once, and with it, glass strikes against grass. It holds, it shines, unbroken, and in her peace, Hikari can see her own pale face, agonized and frightened. A heartfelt conversation has led to this, to a heart-pounding clash. She takes a single step in retreat, and her body bends from the force of the other girl's strength. Her skin goes cold. She finds she can't breathe. She realizes there, looking deep into the now closed eyes of the girl attacking her, that her being attacked is not the source of the fight clawing and gripping at her inside. It is not that, nor the fact that she can hardly resist, as the push of Taritsu's blade inches her own, nearer and nearer to her taut neck. No, the sweat in her palm, the breath trapped in her lungs, it is all because the person before her, the girl who had felt to the tragic and sorrowful figure only moments before, seems now so utterly changed. She is not the person she spoke to, like a fellow and friend. In fact, she doesn't seem like a person at all. Her stare so purposeful, her jaw so unmoving, and those fingers of her clutched so tightly, they're now stained in red. Nothing but a beast garbed in black, a shade brimming with malice. Let's descend peacefully. Find common ground. Don't be weak. Don't falter. With these thoughts in mind, Hikari pushes back. They have both seen and felt the throes of battle with near countless memories, but vicarious recollections are no substitute for a genuine struggle between life and death. Their impromptu blades meet again, entirely without grace. Taritsu's strikes stay vicious and direct, while Hikari's movements are desperate, forever a hair away from a harmful, fatal slip. She only defends. She does not do more. If she could stop this without violence, she'd do so in a heartbeat. The flurried tussle is hampered by the peculiar surroundings of the broken church. Lamps and benches, places under the sky. The two move between the aisles. Taritsu darts toward Hikari's feet, but her target remains planted. Hikari lifts the piece of glass that had once served to rescue her, bracing for the rising cut. But a cut does not come. Instead, it is that black parasol, tearing quickly through the air and cruelly into a waiting guard. Yeah! She groans, painting. It feels like fire has swallowed her hand and her small fingers. She swears it must have been. Her anomalous piece flies from her grasp, and as soon as she is without weapon, the pained girl withdraws immediately. To her own surprise, Hikari lands after her first leap with no waver, no fall. She leaps back again, her dress fluttering, and she finds herself standing atop of the pews, just in time to avoid another coming blow. So close. Can this not be ended with words? Even if it could, she can't find a single word to say. Even if she could, she isn't given a chance to speak. And even when, blessed, she is afforded both, gaining enough distance from her pursuer and time alone to begin preparing her voice. A new blade shoots out of nowhere. It finds her cheek swiftly, and, just like that, it cuts glancing across her skin. Hikari loses her breath again. Her hand flies to the left side of her face. She withdraws it, seeing that an unfortunately now familiar color has tainted her fingers. Her palm. Once more, she goes cold. Still falling back, she grips both of her arms, trying to quell their trembling. She swallows the saliva, filling her mouth. And quietly, she pleads, "Stop! Please! Stop!" And another shard of glass drives through the air like an arrow, and she avoids it, though she was only given a second for its approach. It goes past her upper arm, its target had been, and she shouts, "Please, stop! I know what you want to do!" Hikari stops instead, and in a moment, after Taritsu lands on a row of pews 5 meters away from hers. "What are you? A demon invented by this world?" Taritsu asks. "What? Are you just another fragment from a dead place came to haunt me?" No, Hikari yells. "You don't know what you are either," Taritsu mutters. There, Hikari notices. A number of pieces of Arcea are darting behind and before the other girl, like patrolling wasps. She eyes them warily, and Taritsu continues to speak, voice deep, long and low. "But if you found me," she says, "that means you can't be anything good." And Hikari, recalling what the girl had told her from her past, is brought still upon realizing that she can perfectly understand what that means. "I'm not that..." she mumbles in defense. Another bullet of glass comes shooting past her ear. She shuts her eyes, forcing tears out of them. If she is to survive, she cannot give up. Eyes downcast, Hikari calls a new piece of glass to her hand, not realizing how strange it is that she can touch it now. A troop of shards also join her behind her back. She lifts her head, like this. She once more faces the girl she wishes she could befriend. They erupt from the gate, crashing through it, as if it were pain instead of metal. Shards of memory whirl around them in chaos, as the girl in black lunges at the girl in white, pushed back and never pushing forward. Though she has chosen to fight earnestly, there still is a hope in Hikari's heart that this does not have to end in bloodshed. Yet still, even if her sway over the glass is not nearly as deft, even if she is entirely unpracticed, she truly won't give in. Glass shields her back in a slapdash patchwork pattern, constantly shifting to stop Taritsu's roundabout spears from ever hitting their marks. Hikari's eyes are sharper than the glass, ever vigilant to pin the dark girl down, to end this peacefully, through force. Nothing about it is simple, however. Now outside the cathedral's shell, open on the misshapen roads of the hills of Arcaea, Taritsu is free, keeping close, her movements sweep and her glass flies wide. So dodgily pursued, Hikari finds all she can do is cling to a desperate defense in preservation of her own life. Her pulse is quick, and the sweat that had begun on her hands is now permeating her entire body with an awful chill, smashing an invisible knife against an invisible dagger, crashing a swift shard into a shining lance flying true before it can meet her throat. Blow for blow, for blow for blow. She is made to realize that the battle has gone from a tussling mess of violence to a vicious clash of two formidable and absolute forces. She cannot match Taritsu's strength, but with her wits and will kept about her, she can dampen its impact. To the torrent of emotions before her, she will be the composed counter, the stone weathered but never broken, and she will settle this. They're even, each holding down her position as opponents, and rays of light shine from the smooth faces of the chosen Arcaeans. They remain even, in fact, until Taritsu shifts her own focus. Instead of aiming past the other girl's guard with no tell, she decides to redirect and send down her flock on Hikari's right side. The impact is massive. With an explosion of glints and glamour, it forces Hikari to stumble down to her knees. And then there, glaring darkly, Taritsu lifts and points her black umbrella. It tips, revealing the intended destination, the front of her opponent's skull. She spares no hesitation. The strike comes in an instant. Hikari shuts her eyes. Taritsu's brow twists. The thrust is stopped, but not by either of them. Instead, it is something between them. Between them, that anomalous shard, previously forced from Hikari's hand, stands still in the air, steady as a wall, immovable, against the umbrella's spike. Hikari opens her eyes and stares, disbelieving. That's... Taritsu lifts her other hand. A swirling of glass rises up around it. No hesitation either. Hikari thrusts her hand against the anomaly, and every free piece of glass surrounding them sways for just a moment, before a razor-sharp rainfall begins. It begins like a storm. The falling glass, now under Hikari's command, begins to dart everywhere and every way around, without order. Though the shards are hers to control, she cannot grasp how to truly use them for a little while. Taritsu's aggravation and concern plain on her face, retreats. Hikari is thus left hidden in a swarm of edging memories, crouched and still as she concentrates on her newfound power. Taritsu surveys the land, looking to the sky and to Hikari's storm. She holds a hand up over her head and thinks, to fight a storm, one must summon a deluge. Thus, from distant cities and white mountains, the glass of 1,000 and more memories are immediately pulled by her call. Unlike Hikari's untamed flurry, Taritsu's flock is a pattern, immaculately composed. Behind the girl in black, the glass assumes the shape of a giant rose, its petals falling one by one in swirling descent, slicing cleanly through the scroll shielding the girl in white. And Hikari, now standing, though afraid, can only respond in patterned kind. Bloom after bloom, and chain after chain, follow in their maddening, frenetic, distant combat. From miles off, it seems things are exactly as Taritsu wished. A clash of two storms, rain fighting rain, lightning flashing throughout, and the undulating clouds joining the fray by bursting, spiraling, and flowing in an explosive display, a sparkling tumult of furious natural powers. And beneath the whirling and silver flood stand two girls, each with a blaze in her heart. Each avoids volleys of shards by mere millimeters, as they begin to run as they fight, rather than holding their ground. Rushing through Arcaea's plains, they cast glass artilleries and skid along the shining earth, as their improvised bullets fall and scatter like shrapnel. Glass pursues, glass cuts off their route, glass aims for their feet, and attempt to pin the enemy in place. It is madness. Frenetic madness, chaotic yet constant. Their movements soon become nearly even, steady and regular. Evade and fire, always. Within this overwhelming row of beauty and violence, they, once again, find themselves evenly matched. And thus it is Taritsu's turn to gain the upper hand. Her journey in this place had been hell. Hell, from her birth to her first steps. No, even first steps were denied to her. Weren't they? She'd ventured outside of where she'd first awakened, and not long after her journey was abruptly and mercilessly stopped by a torrent of misery and tragedy. Ever since, those two things had been doggedly following her. It's a joke. I'm a good person, she tells herself. I'm not these dark clothes I was born with. I'm not these dark memories I'm tormented with. I'm not a person who is evil. I'm an ordinary person tortured by an evil world. Without reason, without sense. A completely horrible, cruel and merciless world. A nightmare one can't wake from. And the ending, for me, is a pathetic death. That sort of thing, that kind of thinking, has brought tears to her eyes so many times before. Now, it's over. No matter what, it's over. With that thought in mind, while she grazes past glass, sent at her by the girl she was trying to kill, she notices the presence of something strange. A familiar, grotesque presence she'd felt minutes before this. The feeling like reality itself has lost correctness, an impossible condition made manifest. that anomalous feeling, it's just besides her sheet. She looks to her right, and the violent tinged and grotesquely warped chart of an anomaly comes into her sight. It is only a moment, only a whim, and yet it tells everything. As expected of the boron chart, it does not hold simple memory, but beyond expectations, it holds impossible answers. In an instant, as soon as the shine of its surface has met her eyes, with the sensation that the inside of her skull had been bathed in light, almost full knowledge of the world, of nearly everything that ever and absolutely was, unlocked vivid understanding in her mind. Their names, their past, this world, its purpose, her, Hikari, her, Taritsu, Eto and Co, Saya and Lise, Luna and names, countless names, even facts of other worlds, destinations of other travelers, ends, beginnings and elaborate reasons to it all, and the truth, the whole truth. That, before her, Hikari stops briefly, noticing the obvious shift in her aggressive demeanor. There's a change, there's fear. So, that's it, that's everything. Taritsu glimpses the truth of this cage-dubbed reality. With that truth, she's claimed power. And with both knowing everything, what exactly would change? Her feelings curdle and churn. The endless bitterness packed in her chest flows out from it and courses through her, onto her tongue, into her teeth. Her lips twisted into a morose and bitterly maudlin grin. Morose and maudlin, but undoubtedly, strangely mirthful. Laugh, girl! Call forth a tempest! The path here was blazed by the worst recollections of mankind, and what remains at the end is, and ever will be, the end. At the terminus, one of the two will die. The illusion of an even match shatters, and with its destruction, Hikari's hope finally begins to waver. Without warning, Hikari's storm flies to Taritsu's side, cloaking the other girl in darkness and light. As they surround her, her eyes shut for a moment, and when they open again, those countless memories unfurl behind her as 6 gargantuan wings. Now hanging in the sky in bland defiance of nature, she lays her sharpened eyes on Hikari. A simple look reveals to Hikari that the path to victory has nearly been closed. She had thought the girl a beast before, and now she sees her what she is, a buff and nigh impossible. Glass rises up behind her like a gigantic sheet, a skyline, shimmering and clear. Below, Hikari has little to nothing to fight what will come. At least that's how it feels. But no, the girl in black does not have everything. This can be survived. It can! Hikari takes up 20 memory as the windows to the heavens breaks. At first, only a handful of shards hurtle down at her, but they do so rather slowly. Disarms her. She starts to think, this is impossible, as though the elaborate display a moment ago was only that, a display. As before, Hikari shields herself, quickly blocking the glass falling with unshakable focus, her eyes starting this way and that to keep measure of the flittering, brilliant crowd. It makes her confident. She misses nothing. She allows herself a smile. At least she'll be able to run from it. At least this won't be the end. A single piece then flies to the middle of her chest. Its delivery interpretable only as a message. It had flown faster than any other pieces of Arcaea she'd ever seen. The girl above speaks to her through this glass shard. Enough games! And enough wasting time. Give up and die! The shard cuts through her dress, and Hikari looks into Taritsu's eyes. The girl in black is smiling, all the sadness and anger gone from her face. And it's the most frightening thing she's ever witnessed in her life and in her memories. The shard falls out without having reached her skin. The broken pane whirls into a side-winding tornado. Its mouth barrels down onto her, slicing fabric and skin, but otherwise simply passes by. And this is one more message before the end. The girl in black wants her enemy to know where this began. Fear overwhelms her in this riptide of glass, rushing and cutting past her in powerful amount, turning up and swirling as if pushed by a great wind. She is made absolutely afraid, so petrified. She stands fast and watches. She stands, watching memories of a filthy world, memories of a pain, betrayal, envy, death, suffering, and decay. Dark. They are only dark. Wherever it is these shards reflect, she sees little lights there, and whatever small spark she sees, it fades away in an instant. This is what the other girl described to her. The vile reflections of places gone that had been tormenting her since her awakening. She would now use them to torment another. Glass hooks under Hikari's sleeve and stabs into her skirt. They dragged her upwards, up into a domain where she can no longer stand. Tears fill her eyes as an emotion fills her heart, the emotion that comes when recognizing imminent death. This is not fear. Terror is too little to describe it. Desperation, hope, and awful, arresting feeling. Her own memories run through her head. It is as if she is searching for one that will stand out, one that will inform her that she's come across something like this in the past, and this is how to escape, but nothing comes. The black storm rages over Torso, cutting with little mercy, pure torturous intent, coming closer and closer, as if the intent alone would inflict a fatal wound upon her flesh. It is unbelievable. This situation is so far beyond anything she's ever born to witness in her own memories of those of others. This disgusting blend of facing the unknown, yet knowing precisely what awaits her on the other side. Horror, not fear. Horrific understanding. There is no control over glass here. Something, anything, an anomaly, a miracle. If something like that appeared, she could make it out. She could step away. She could live if there was ever time. It is now. And here, the ground below bursts, as if the world itself is rising up to join the hunt. It is now. Now! A shard will come to save her. She prays with all of her being for the will of the world to fly by her side and spare her, for some mechanism of fate, for the wheel of fortune herself, the produce, the god, that will grant her victorious power. Beg for it, hope for it, hold that peace which once brought you salvation, close you to bleeding chest once again. That symbol of resurrection is redemption. It will surely. Another shard pierces her body, a hateful stake driving at her heart. It does not reach the, does not strike the heart itself, but the message, the final message does. One last message from the girl tormenting her. A simple, merciless message. No. The almost lethal blade in Hikari's breast holds the memory of a vast and all-consuming fire, so close to death. Her heart thumps, reminds her she's alive. Her pupils shrink to points. Like that memory of flame, her body burns. It burns with a fluid, vicious heat, pain, agony, blood. Her savior shard falls from her hand as she reaches that hand for the terrible wound. Sound escapes her, run twice through. Her breath has gone as well. This reality, horrible and unimaginable as it is, nonetheless, is. And so her thoughts, too, begin to vanish. And now, instinct begins to lurk, old and forgotten in the wake of those thoughts. They haven't yet taken hold, those discarded yet practical sensibilities. They have only stirred. She is still afraid. She clings to hope by a little finger. Somehow, she manages to pull out 10 memories to aid her, striking out the needled glass that had been keeping her in the sky. Ingloriously, she drops to the now deformed ground, her chosen piece afterwards hovering over her crumpled, aching body. Oddly enough, she finds herself smiling now, too. She pushes herself up with her left hand. For all the enmity evident in Taritsu's assault, she had taken too much pleasure in inflicting torture on her enemy's body. rather than inflicting any sort of mortal blow. Even the shard now in Hikari's chest, so near to her beating heart and flickering with horrid, wrathful flame, did not do the deed. Maybe it wasn't intended to. Regardless, Hikari is still alive. She feebly sends forth an attack, which is quickly swatted down by the girl flying above her. That girl now looks worse than any described devil Hikari has heard in her old memories. A veritable dark queen, ruling night in a world of day. That ecstatic yet obvious empty smile. Seeing this, Hikari can feel it, how her own feelings are beginning to slip away. Stark reality is sobering her more and more, and rather than dread it, as she had been only minutes, no, seconds ago, she begins instead to register each fact present to the situation. Slowly, or as slow as Taritsu will allow, her attack is unending. Shifting her body left and right, guarding her weakest areas with what few memories remain to her, Hikari examines their field of battle. It has been torn asunder, and now looks more wasteland than ever before, ripped, ruined all through, like a town in aftermath of a military bombardment. The glass around them is uncontrollable, the power Taritsu has is immeasurable. Hikari herself is weak, not only in terms of strange abilities and control over glass. Her body has been run ragged. She doesn't have much left before she falls from weariness alone. Perhaps she could find an anomaly, but say she couldn't. What then? She couldn't, so then is now. So, how do you go on when the way is completely obstructed? Should you go on? Glass strikes her shoulder, shining with light. Hikari stares into its reflection. So, the other girl can control light too now. Well, she decides to think over what she's observed once again. She recognizes that she could die here, or she could not. These are the two possibilities, and knowing that, she finds herself in acceptance. This could be the end. In a moment, this could all be over. And while she'd rather it not, she can't help but echo the idea. So it goes. After thought, hope, and feeling, determination is the last to fade from her. This is not a laying down of arms. No. When she pulls the shard from her hand, her eyes briefly dazzled from the white flames licking up and searing close her wound. She does not press it to her neck. She would certainly prefer to live. But she would not mind. She wouldn't mind, with the odds being so impossible. Eventually, while turging down the flying glass, Hikari notices that some segments of the whirlwind are reversing, in fits and starts. The bizarre movement is so unnatural, she genuinely wonders if the girl above her is doing it on purpose. It's reminiscent, she thinks, of a skipping video. It isn't any better or worse than the bullet curtain she's been facing so far, but it is quite peculiar. The earth quakes. She utters a "what?" as she feels it. The earth quaking? Here? It could be that ground will break again, thinking that Hikari shields her face and chest with her arms. When nothing comes, she remains curious about the phenomenon. If it wasn't the girl above her, Taritsu wouldn't have noticed it. After all, she was flying now. More of the blade storm is shifting and rolling in rough, rigid movement now. She decides to throw a crew of glass the other girl's way again. It passes easily through the waves again, but then it suddenly turns very bright and breaks away. The shards don't break themselves, they vanish, and the space they were looks as if it was cracked. Once she sees this, once she recognizes what she's seeing, everything around her enters stasis. In this instant, the obsidian glass which had been flying all around her is stuck fast within reality. To her, it looks absolutely beautiful. A smile crosses her lips without wanting. How pleasant, she whispers, chuckling to herself. Something so beautiful here, where she could soon find her grave. It's so bizarre that it is to laugh. So she does. She makes an earnest yet sad, dry laughter. But as motion gradually returns to the objects around her and to the one above. Above? The sky? A fracture splits across it. It widens, carving a shape out of heaven, and that immense segment begins to plummet. Even more bizarrely, hundreds of images flash across it, blinking rapidly from one to the next. The world begins to fall in a strange ruin. As Hikari bears witness to this, more satisfactory rises to a smile. The storm is still slow, the image too fantastic. The sky, the genuine sky, not an artificial one, is falling, stopping, and falling again, as if grand pieces of the celestial puzzle are being moved and switched by some befuddled god. And, watching it, her smile begins to gradually recede. The look in her eyes grows colder, her breath slows, and the faint glimmer of excitement provided by this cataclysmic view is snuffed out, replaced with objectivity. Her opinion on the disaster destroying all is delivered in a single word. With a little appreciation, in the most hollow tone, she says, "Delightful," as if the world has any meaning. As if the world has any meaning. For a moment she was remembered, that was enough. The world bowed to the girl marked by red, as white fire roses from her body. Now cloaked in flames that will not burn without her say, she wonders why this had come to pass. Her foe was stopped, the battle for a moment was stopped, and there is more. Above, there is more. All because she has touched what once was. When faced with the thought of dying, she was not afraid. However, dying was also the last thing that she wanted, and still, now, she refuses to die. Now, in a valley of nothingness, beneath a sundered sky, her blood falls, but does not strike the ground. Beyond there, only a single tower can be seen, the bell tower of a hollow church, jutting there between the divided, as if to mark it for those below. The conclusion approaches now. It was expected. Was it fate? Now there is starlight in the heavens, the veil is rent, and the darkness behind it is glittering. Is it with her notice? Does that matter? The pictures have slowed and stopped. The fall of the firmament has slowed and stopped. Her blood is hot, her eyes are dull, and Taritsu knows. Despite their dullness, those eyes promise demise. She knows, she swallows, what little spit dampened her otherwise dried out tongue and throat. She meets those eyes, wordlessly, she rose to defy them. In Hikari's heart, emptiness threatens. However, it isn't the emptiness that Taritsu can view through the silent girl's stare. Will lurks, but not in weakness. There is a sincere will to survive, unkillable in Hikari's soul. It will not perish. Wordlessly, she rose to live. Taritsu moves forth like a dragon. The world holds her back, and still, like an untamed beast, she resists. Is this atmosphere? It is force, ripping at her skin, and yet she drives forward still, to the true beast standing on the earth. That beast turns her head. The world seems to turn on its side, and at once Taritsu meets the ground, glass falling a tumultuous clatter, splashing and scattering, and flying out. She cannot feel her arm for a moment, but forces it to return to recognition. She drags herself onto her knees, and spots a white tongue of flames, flashing through the shards beneath her. She flies backwards then. The earth is set ablaze. The world turns again. Her stomach lurks with motion, though she soon stops and stands still. And with no warning, before her stands the girl in white, a scarf of flames, of the same pale color, burning over shoulders. Once again, Taritsu makes to retreat. Glass flies up and down to ensnare her, forming a great prism around her body. Her body trembles once before not moving at all. And so again, she looks into Hikari's eyes. Hikari does not look back. She looks only into the cage she's made. And she whispers something, but it is nothing that the girl in black wants to hear. Taritsu grasps shadows through the rough glass, aimed at Hikari's open neck. Hikari lifts her eyes to the hand. 7 colors ring out, and the flow of time goes still. Because the sentiment asking for her to stop all this is not kindness, but lack of care, a frightening and deeply seated apathy. This is what she always had, this profound indifference. She must have felt it before. Within her soul, 2 wills are at war. I can't, she thinks. I have to, she thinks. And these thoughts, they fight against those building sentiments of should and shouldn't. But she feels a flickering in the depths of her heart. Yes, her true wishes are much too strong to lose. Hikari stands before Taritsu, whose hand is out and whose face is contorted with rage. Around them, the rainbow has been torn apart and is bleeding through the air. Taritsu cannot move. Hikari cannot move. Inside of her, hope asks, when you bring back time, can't you just push her far away? Her will to be considers it. That's fair, she thinks. Hope can't be a worthless thing. The world begins to move again, and Taritsu is sent in an instant behind that distant shepherd's gate. Impassionate grasp closes around one of its bars, and glass comes to help her, tears the metal construction from its hinges, and once she realizes what game the beast has played, she takes hold of whatever other glass can be found around her, and sends it all to the air. Each flickering, each reflecting. She finds Hikari soon, and then she moves the earth. Things twist beneath the earth, and within the world's fabric, as Hikari plants down her foot in quiet rebellion. In a sudden but frightening way, she realizes that Taritsu still has the aim and the means to take all of this away. So, to hope? She chuckles. She already knew that hope was gone. The space between them warps. Which of them asked for this? Neither can tell. They face each other behind the broken gate, within the shadows of that cathedral. And with a smile, Hikari repeats herself. She tells Taritsu easily, I said, you don't have to do this. It is nothing that the girl in black wants to hear. What has to be done? Are you joking? Says Taritsu. You don't know why you're here, do you? Does anyone other than me? What has to be done? You're right, nothing has to happen. Nothing in this place matters. And you don't even understand. You don't know anything. I've kept it up long enough. Do you think I care to be here? You know, honestly, maybe I am the hero of this worthless story. Maybe I am its villain. Whether I am, whether I'm not, honestly, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Maybe you ought to die. You're right, I don't have to do this. Neither did you. The words, pointed as they are, seem to roll out of her like smooth and heavy stone, bowling over and through Hikari before her. To Hikari, it sounds only like insanity. She feels now like she and the other girl have been connected, but all that is in the other girl's mind is madness. Taritsu knows that her mind is madness. And what of it, she thinks. It has been driven there. There's nothing to lose and nothing to gain. She speaks one final time, saying, "If you want to live, then kill me." But you should know this first. I want to die. Her words are sincere, and her sincerity and wickedness are manifested. Might fills Taritsu's stomach and burns into her hands. She will force the ending now, no matter what it will be. With that sentiment guiding her, she calls upon the shards, to which neither girl has laid claim. The fragmented segments of the sky, they begin to fall, and the horizon darkens. Hikari cannot control everything. Rather, her control was lost very quickly after she'd gained it. A tug of war. No, this would be better referenced to as a struggle. This would be better called a beating. As the first part of the sky falls to the earth, crushing the part of the cathedral and showering everything in dust, it falls very near to her. This cannot be coincident. It's too close to be a chance. As more comes down, she understands that Taritsu has the sky. And that can only be called absurd. The land, the air, the glass, the wind, all of it is being heaved up, pulled down, turned and tossed. She can dissipate some of it, she can point at some of it, and make it vanish into nothingness, but pale and transient fire. She can even pull parts of the sky to her thrall. When Taritsu throws the world at her, she can catch and throw it back. It is cataclysmic, as if giants have descended, and now stomped down on the earth. Amidst the white, there's black she cannot touch, called from the distance. There are shards that Taritsu will not give back. This, everything, is now being taken. As she settles back, As planes and gates and buildings rumble, her teeth are forced to shatter. She plants her feet again, but can still feel tremors in her fingernails, into her skull. The cathedral standing over them groans, as it is beaten by the debris of the heavens, but it does not fall, nor will she. He should have stopped this sooner. She had a chance. Her heart beats, her eyes narrow, only a bit. Is the core of the world going to break next? That's what the other girl wants, right? As she thinks that, as she holds the landscape together and thinks, so quickly thinks about how to stop her, if that is the case, her chest is leashed. A line of Arcaea flies from the darkness and wraps her chest in a pointed embrace. Fire burns this way, but her chest is leashed again. Her arms are leashed. With effort, she turns her head. Her legs, her feet, her thighs are all leashed. Her stomach is leashed. Her body burns again, and her body is bound again. The shadows, these memories of woe, are keeping her trapped. That there is some black humor at that. Taritsu approaches and Hikari breaks some of the bonds around herself, freeing her leg. She takes one step backwards with it and finds a spike just behind her, some hideous formation, aimed at her unshackled limb. So she simply stares into the glass and wills it to be set ablaze. Yet it refuses her. She's tied down again. She is brought low. She's tucked, suddenly down to her knees. There might still be a way out. Or there might have been. When did it happen? When she lifts her head, Hikari finds Taritsu standing motionless before her. Silence met with silence. Though they do not speak, the two have locked eyes tightly with one another. They stare, unflinching, as the sound of their finishing battle echoes. Through the rumbling and broken earth, through the whistling and scattered wind, and through the dust and debris cast and rolling out from ruined, beaten monuments, both girls are unmoving, their eyes only on each other. And yet, despite that, Hikari can see it. In that girl's eyes, an ember of passion which had brought Hikari down still distantly burns. This is not a struggle for a truce, it is a wordless threat. Hikari swallows, and Taritsu eyes her open neck, eyes that throat that she hates, that voice that she hates. Her will and her desire prick at Hikari's skin. Now that Hikari asks for time to go still, it flows on. She tries to destroy the binding with flames. They remain. The earth will not yield. The sky will not bend. With nothing else in mind, she finds herself holding her breath. The sky has finished falling. The cathedral is still breaking. Dust lingers between and above them, and that sharp and wicked will is still flickering in Taritsu's eyes. Those eyes begin to gently narrow. In this moment, although ruined, the world is calm. Taritsu smirks at the memory. Hikari maintains her stare. "We are back here," Taritsu says. She tilts her head only a little. "Are you going to do it? Are you going to wish for a miracle again?" But Hikari will not answer. Miracles are miracles. because they are too convenient, too perfectly timed to actually ever happen. You've seen enough broken words through this shard, through Arcaea. You know, then, that miracles are the same as hope. And besides, with or without miracles, you live, you die. Hikari breathes. Taritsu gently straightens her own back. The girl in black goes on. You know, I would rather just forget everything. Another attempt to move. Another reminder that she has been brought utterly still. Her shoulders strain, her toes curl. I'm going to kill you, Taritsu says. And this world, your world, Arcaea, is going to die. Again, she pushes a smile across her lips. She breathes in and forces out a laugh. With her other hand, she takes Hikari's shield. She lifts the bound girl's chin. You really are right, says Taritsu, as she brings her palm nearer. I really don't have to do this. For you, her smile disappears as she leans forward. Taritsu's eyes have a familiar look. It's regret and sympathy. Her wings of black have folded down. Above, the night sky continues to glitter. Although all the fury has passed, Hikari's heart continues to pound. She admits to herself, it won't be enough to just stop her. Taritsu begins to bring her left hand away from Hikari's throat, and as she drags it back, something black and pointed glitters in her palm. To end this, Taritsu says this. I'll let you know clearly. My name here was Taritsu, and yours was Hikari. Please! Hikari whispers a word forth. She almost hisses. Please, stop! And Taritsu tilts her head. This again? She thinks for a moment and adds, nothing is going to change. Hikari breaks her bonds with a show of blinding light. She stands and holds out her hand to wish for a weapon. Her wrist, her waist, her legs are all pulled back down. Still she wishes, and within her palm a sword begins to manifest. It is something new, something created, not a memory, though still made of glass. An impossible blade. Along its edges, space seems to bend, glistening. Arcaea rewrites itself and slowly allows the weapon to be. Taritsu thinks this. How funny this is. She has seen that jagged pillar before, and immediately once more, Hikari breaks free. She turns her sword in her palm and thrusts it into the earth. With this, Taritsu is forced backwards by a queer gust, pushed so far away. Hikari brings the blade back up, raising it towards Taritsu, and as she does, she sees her own hand shaking. Taritsu lands despite being pushed away, and her gaze falls again on the familiar sword. She stares. She waits. Her teeth grinned together. She looks into Hikari's face and sees that the girl cannot focus at all. The game of bounding back and forth, the hesitation. She has no patience for even a bit of it. Glass walls push up from the earth around Hikari and bear Taritsu's approaching figure. Reflections, or maybe true images. Something is strange about them. And to see them, to feel them coming, and see the glinting in their palms, fear pulses through Hikari's body. That hand is lifted, and it will land nowhere else but her waiting throat. With both hands now trembling, the girl in white holds onto her sword. Something sounds off loudly in her head, a painful ringing, followed by the sound of her heart. Once more in her ears. Reason tells her that this can go on forever. If she turns her sword back and thrusts it down again, the walls will fall away and Taritsu will be easily pushed. So why, when she feels Taritsu's hand gently holding her right cheek, when what is clearly Taritsu's flesh and blood body appears before her, why does she thrust her sword upwards and through the other girl's chest? Her emotions power her through the strike. Out of the corner of her eye, she sees a dark shard of glass drop from Taritsu's hand. The right arm having been brought back in reflex and pain. The blinding shine grows slowly and soon rapidly. An aura surreal, above and beyond reality. And a cry for life roars out, so consuming life in return. The shout pulses and vibrates through the earth and also through Taritsu's body and ends. Like that sound dies, and so does the girl. As soon as it steps through her, sets with her body, the blade swallows her life, her blood and essence quickly filling the glass. And then the glass slowly begins to shatter and fade. In an instant, she's completely extinguished and her body begins to fall. Quickly, without thinking, Hikari takes the hand Taritsu had placed on her cheek. In seconds, the other girl is quickly gone, leaving only a cold and silent from behind. Yet, warmth runs over Hikari's fingers as the sword of glass continues to break and disappear. In her other hand, she can feel the strength of Taritsu's grasp completely vanish. The girl's feet reach now the ground, and like that, only Hikari's wet and warm hands still support her. Her eyes are closed now. Her brow is frowned, and then is not. Like this, without peace, she is dead. And only now, with her own eyes wide and her own heart still beating, does Hikari understand it. She slowly puts back her left hand, and the girl's body begins to fall. She returns her hand to the lifeless body and holds the girl. As her stare continues to widen, she squeezes the girl's dead hand tightly, and the two come down to their knees. With her hand against Taritsu's motionless chest, she feels warmth again and brings her eyes to the wounds that she had made. She has wounded the earth and sky as well, though she finds it difficult to look anywhere other than this disfigured hole, as everywhere else around her has become flattened. The strength she had put into her strike must have been immense. The scene has been leveled entirely. The sky has gone completely still. The cathedral is all but no more. Behind Taritsu, some fractured brick wall has flown out from the blast and fallen. Evidently, is what shielded and kept from disintegrating by the powerful girl's body. But still, the shield had been pierced. Stupidly, Hikari brings her face near the other girl and waits for a breath that would never come. She squeezes the dead hand tighter, and when it does not hold her back in return, she throws it down in anger. She digs her nails into the front of the other girl's clothing, feeling something warm once again. She looks and realizes that tears have begun to fall on her hand. And though she knows what had warmed it before, she had to have known. Seeing her own hand dyed in red and cut through by her own tears throws her suddenly in panic. She straightens her back in terror, then nearly falls backwards. Her face contorts and her lips tremble. She sobs, brings her clean hand to her face and sobs more deeply. Now she falls. Taritsu comes down along with her. Hikari pulls her stained hand down to her dress, and the corpse, leaning upon her collapsed back, instead against the cathedral's debris. Her own words echo inside her head. Her own sardonic chastisement. You never had to do this. It isn't funny. The reality of everything is becoming so impossible to ignore. Leaving your hand down all you want. The heat that burns through your skin isn't going to disappear like a sword. A girl is dead, and you were the one who took her life. You killed her. You knew how much she suffered. Did you really try to understand her? You can't just move on. You want to pick yourself up, continue your journey. This world already remembers everything that you did. What? Where's your sense of triumph? Won? Didn't you? You are alive. Do you hate it? Did she? Does that justify it? Does that make things better? Justification? Is something wrong with you? You're only thinking about yourself. With a sword, her heart feels as if made of paper and falling away. She grips her own hair, but still cannot bring up her left hand. She cannot stop demanding herself. Herself, herself, herself! And something lingers, telling her, "Is that anything new?" Her first impression was that she'd awakened to a cloud of glass butterflies. How pleasant, she thought, that these figures can move as well. Where are the strings? She sat down on her knees, fixed her dress, and found that there were no strings, and these were no butterflies, but glass shards, flying on their own. Delightful, she felt, and so she said it. The glass reflected another world than the one in white surrounding her. In it she could see reflections of seas, cities, fires, light. She rose her hand to scatter them, and laughed in joy. I didn't know these pieces of glass had a name. Arcaea. To tell the truth, they were so beautiful to me that it didn't matter the name. I entertained myself by touching them, swirling them, watching them. That was enough. No? No. And you knew it all the while. Maybe you almost saw it once as well, but it's impossible for people to truly change. That too is something that you always knew. The curtain will not draw to a close. This never ends. There is no meaning to be found here like you wanted. Just another girl crying, alone, in a world of the dead. At least there's one truth you could take comfort in, one fact irrefutable, now etched into you with the blood of the other girl, who had been so near to taking you out of it. Yes, it was paradise. Paradise, afterlife, heaven, the world of the dead. It should come as no surprise that the departed might linger in a place like that, at least for a little while, or perhaps they will linger just above it. That's where I am. That's where you are. So that's it, my hands on her cheek, her running me through with glass. I can't feel either anymore. I can't feel anything. I can't feel her. Let me go. Why? You're here. But isn't there something still stirring inside of you? You've got a few little pulses of life left. Little more to go. No. It's not quite over yet. Listen. Remember yourself. It's been much longer than this, hasn't it? You've already seen so much worse. Now get up. Fight. Fight again! Stop it. Alright, let's just talk instead. You're not listening. I don't want to talk. I already said. I just want to... I want you to remember. You're pretty annoying, you know? Then do you remember? If you do, you should know why I... These memories aren't going to leave me easily, now that I know them, even if I don't want to. I really am starting to remember every little thing, and if I'm remembering right. I thought this before, but is this a joke? My old life. I loved being alive, but living was awful. How many times was I thrown down? How many times was I spat on? Hate followed us everywhere, even though we just wanted to take our powers and just help. We scared them. Weed? And who are you? Well, who are you? Well, funny thing, that's actually the one thing I don't remember. I guess you might call me Taritsu. Then call me that too. You're kidding. Really? Are you telling me that I'm right? About what? That when she made this world, she didn't think about a single part of it. If the life I had here she was awful. I'd say she just never learned. I don't feel sorry for her, if that's what you're getting at. We may have come from different realities, but she must have understood what she could do. She had to know, and she just didn't care. And that's why I don't care that she wasn't brought up and taught like I was. Just look at what all my training with the Shapers got me. I was different from her because of who I was, not what I learned. If I'd had the strength, if I'd really had the power to change things for the whole world, I would've. But I couldn't, and I didn't. And that's what I got. Another go. Because that's what she wanted. And in her stupidity, she gave that to everyone else too. So dumb. It's dumb, right? You have to laugh. Come on, laugh! What? You can't? Of course you can't. I mean, what kind of second chance was this? Just some kind of terrible, ironic reflection, struggling while alive, while everything claws and rips at you, getting up when you're broken and bleeding. I did that. I kept standing up, kept fighting, even though I knew it was pointless. Why would you make me live all of that again? Answer me. Why? I wanted things to change. I never wanted to give up. Did you the second time around? I did. Hey, I know I'm dying. Could you tell me something? Can I still see outside before I go? Through my birds? Can I see her little prison one last time? You can. Great. So many small and unknown corners, with trapped souls wandering around them. I guess you can't call them souls. Everything here is only a memory, even us. What are they thinking? I only caught a glimpse of that chart, and it didn't tell me everything. Most of them are happy. Very, very happy. Now that's just evil. I feel like crying. You know, I just wanted to cry about everything. Why'd I do all this? Why did I die? That's a good look on your face. Have you gotten an answer for me? Tss. I'm just, it all hurts. Everything hurts. It's like I finally really get it. And it's just horrible. I can't even cry anymore. Well, that's it. You didn't really want to die. So why did you? When I first lived, the road ahead was dark. But I knew that it would branch into countless others. I could find death somewhere, sure. But I could find anything else, if I just walked down the right path. It was never like that here, and looking back, I feel sick forever thinking that it was. These roads are barren, and there are no places to stop. Anyone, no matter their path, will march and march on blindly, until their legs give out and they see the truth of it, that it doesn't matter what turns they take, every single path leads to nothing at all. I actually don't think so. I think there must be a road ahead here that leads to something else. What makes you say that? When you're trapped out here, only able to talk to the dead. Are you stupid? Were you paying attention, even once? I just can't believe that. I have to hope. I don't want to believe that this is just what I'm saying. You don't want to see the truth. Nothing here mattered at all. No, it can't be the truth. I can't let it be the truth. You understand? If that's the truth, wouldn't it be gross? Wouldn't it be too sad? I do remember that, from back when I was living, thinking like that was what kept me alive. You really are me. She really copied me out, and it really is true for all of us. We are all hollow, copied souls. It's true, she's still alive. And we're all dead. But then, why are you here? Where are the originals for everyone else? Where are their souls? I don't know, and I don't know. Alright, but actually, you still haven't said so. So, just tell me, alright? Are you really the real me? Are you my soul? Yes, that's what I am. Yes, I've been all alone out here. And yes, I've been watching. And you're pretty annoying, huh? Aren't you also real, Taritsu? Aren't we all? Maybe we are. Maybe I was. Yeah, annoying. I doubt something as annoying as you could be a fake. Ha! Thank you. I'd never have guessed I'd been watching myself experience a terrible fate again in a second life, only for things to change. What changed? You said it yourself. You gave up. I wanted you to... I don't know. I really wanted the change to be good. Do you really think it still can't be done? The villain is dead after all. I know you're joking, but I'm sorry. I was just angry. I don't want to completely give up on it either. I don't think it's hopeless. I mean, you're still here after the end, aren't you? Maybe you'll still be here after I'm gone. And if you still are watching after I'm gone, I really think you shouldn't give up on hope like I did. Maybe, I don't know. No, I know it. The girls left here might be able to save themselves. I want to believe that. A change, just like you said. That's all I want. If I don't go away forever, if you can't find me after all of this, let me know when they do. I will. This is funny too, When I was alive, when the others weren't there, I remembered I always talked to myself. But, you know, I never felt alone. No one alive is really alone. That was it. That's what I always told myself. I wanted to see the world again. A ruined tower and pieces of glass floating in the air. A wide world of white. White, and more glass, drawn to departed souls, but I can see it on their faces. None of these girls are lost anymore. None of them? Looks like you've finally forgotten about her. Her? Oh, you're right, her. I actually can see her too. Well, she's really torn up about this, but isn't that a good thing? It's different. She's upset. She's hurt. It's better than nothing. Yeah. I'm not sure if she'll be okay, but I'm sure she'll take this with her. Honestly, I'd even apologize to her. Thinking about it, I think I did the right thing. But you didn't do anything right. Ha, okay, but I don't think I did anything wrong. I'd apologize to her. I mean, why wouldn't I? We're real, and if she's real, then she's just another fool ghost. Punished for nothing and knowing nothing. This is really it, huh? I'm sorry to say, but yes, I'm sure. Don't go. Sorry to say, but I can't just do that. I'm honestly barely here. Tell her. Yeah, Hikari. Honestly, I'm sorry. I don't have any regrets, but the hate I felt wasn't even for you, the other you. She's still out there, still living. I still hate her, but you should know that you're stronger than her. That's why, Hikari, I know you'll stand up again. Close your eyes. They're already closed. Don't worry anymore. I'm not worried. I'll see you again. I don't think so. But that's okay, I accept it. I had everything to suffer, but I still wanted to change everything for the better. I fought for something, no matter what it was I had to face, no matter how misguided I had become. I'm sorry that I chose to die. I'm sorry for throwing it all away, even if I wasted it. I was lucky to get another chance, so I accepted it. I know. I want her to know that I don't want a pathetic, I don't want a stupid finale to be all I'm remembered for. If you can hear me, I want you to know this. Hikari, I mean it. Don't forget. I accepted this life. A girl weeps before her remains now. So anguished, so crippled with grief, the girl knits the final smile on her face before it fades. Some of this tale remains untold. The truth is, some tales end without ever being fully told. And their pieces, their shards are what remains, to be put together and understood. This has always been a world of shards, a world of pieces. The girls have always been left to pick those pieces up, believing that reflections have meaning, believing that being at all is where anyone would ever be. Now the girl in white crumbles down to the earth, hurt and alone. But she will find and carry pieces too. Memories will live on here, and will be remembered until and past the very end. They will carry on, and none will ever forget. It wasn't long ago, somewhere dark and cold, barren, empty land rests in silence, newly cold and newly empty, under a sky leaden with dense clouds. The green leaves and red flowers had turned grey, and only the footsteps of the living remained to tell that they had once been there. White now fells from the heaven and covers up their steps. No snow fell, only ashes. All had frozen, and winter had yet to come. On the ash and ice-covered earth, on her knees, was a girl, with her neck craned up to face what light now blends through the grey. Her eyes were wide and staring, but for that light was an angel, or maybe a god. There was no home to turn up to. Her mother and father were dead, her guardians were dead, her fellow fledgling shapers were dead, her people who had always scorned her were all dead. All that remains of what she knew was a shard of glass in her hand, a fragment from her window. But still, perhaps there was a chance. She was chosen and special. She was young but learned. She only had to try. If she tried very hard, there was perhaps the smallest chance to reverse time's flow, to strike back, to even, maybe, turn into a sort of god herself, thinking she could stop all of this, thinking she could bring everyone back. The girl looked at the shard of glass in her hand and wishes to save the world. However, she could not. Will alone cannot create strength from nothing. She had all the will that one could imagine, and her will was worthless. Knowing that, she began to cry. The will of the god above was worth more. Its wish had been for her and her kind to vanish, fall and fade into dust, and that wish would be granted, a moment by its hand. The girl saw her eyes in her own reflection, and watches as the image became distorted with her tears. She could see her grief through her shaking jaw, and her impotent, overwhelming pain. Nothing mattered at all. Nothing she had ever done, and nothing now. The black-haired girl kept her head bowed as the angels descended. When it reached her, it raised its hand, and shortly she was gone. The child's name is forgotten. The reason of her death were beyond her. Her life would not be remembered by anyone. But when she died, another wish took her away. It wasn't much longer ago than that. Somewhere warm, so still dark. She had made it dark. Another girl in another time and another place, with all names forgotten. She had drawn her curtains. She had locked her door. A chair was beneath her knob. She sat on her bed and kept her eyes wide and staring. She hugged her knees. Staring. She stared into nothingness. She was overwhelmed by herself. A memory played endlessly in her head. She could see the view from atop the stairs and vividly hear her parents' words, whispered from beyond her sight. They weren't saying anything against her, but they were still discussing her. It wasn't that they didn't love her. She could not love herself, and she felt that inside her something was missing that would allow her to love them. She very well could still see the view from atop the stairs. She had felt everything tugging at her to let go of the banister then, and fly to the marble foyer below. But what if it didn't work? The girl had managed to return to her room after that and quietly locked herself away. Why couldn't she disappear? Why couldn't she walk off into nowhere? Why were her thoughts like this? Why was her mind like this? Why couldn't she disappear? Her nails dug into her calves. Her stare widened. Her breathing quickened. And she wished that she could run away. The girl with white hair was troubled. The girl with white hair was a god. She was not troubled because she was a god. Her godhood was a fact she never knew. In her heart she made a sullen wish for refuge, and that wish was granted. Somewhere else, where I can be happy. The girl with black hair died, and a wish called her soul away. In a distant world, in another reality, a girl more powerful than hair had made that wish. The white-haired girl was so powerful that her wish had created a world. A world with meaningless name, Arcaea. Arcaea was a sanctuary meant to save the dead. Though she'd been alive when she'd made her wish, she still keenly felt that sense of death. She'd given it no consideration, none at all. In fact, she couldn't have thought straight if she'd tried. She only wanted something there for herself. It's possible, really, that if she knew the fate of those caught in Arcaea's web, she would see herself as having done a very good thing. The world reached out to countless other places across time, across separate reality. It was alive, and though it had no thought, it nonetheless wished to share life with those dead. Unguided, it caught any it could that spoke to its heart. In a space crafted between the seams of the real, in darkness spotted with soft and distant purple starlight, so many souls were wrapped into the weave, and brought to a new and shining border beyond the black, the world of white. From there the world made a perfect imprint of each, and also released each. It gave each imprinted a warm place, gave them a new shape. It gave them infinitely, to view and relive endless life in safety. But it could not truly save its maker. It was able to take two souls, double them and bring the doubles into new bodies, releasing those first souls to whatever fate has awaiting them. However, the soul of the one who would be known as Hikari was fixed back in its first world. She was still alive. Arcaea, always unthinking, instead forced a copy of that soul as best as it could. And much later it found a soul more tragic than any other it had yet to find, similar to its mother's. Strangely, that soul could not be properly kept either. When released, it could not leave the false world's border like the rest, and so began to watch its star-crossed copy on the new, white earth instead. Taritsu woke up in a ruined tower, and time passed. Unthinkably, one of the saved had threatened everything, but mercifully the one who had made this all returned, and soon the world was safe again. Arcaea was only crafted to exist. It had called out to its maker, and that maker had heeded that call, like Arcaea had made a monitor for the shards, like it bid that monitor to swallow up any anomalies that fractured its fragile existence. So now it exists, and has existed. It has existed ever since, for over 1,000 years. The red blood that had stained the earth was erased, leaving behind pure, white land. Taritsu's body was burned away. Warmth filled everything. The sky grew bright. The pearl and nearly endless landscape came together again. And now it is a truly beautiful world, dotted in figures of girls who chose to rest in a land of endless travels. They chose to be frozen and to stare eternally into the world of the lost, and if they are thinking at all, it is of the very distant past. And that was surely the better choice. That was surely better than walking and watching over other places forever. They must be happy, they need to be. Arcaea had nothing else to give to them but that choice. The world was still buried, in between, and escape was, and any realms outside of it were outside and away, and could never be seen again. So, the twins, the girl with the blade, the traveler, the noble, the girl with the song, they and others are angelic figures. And the glass shards of Arcaea often come to rest now too. They gather along walls and pillars, compacting in great and plentiful formations, like crystals, like corrosion. This beautiful world is overseen by a god. Above it all, Hikari watches passively and remembers. She remembers everything old worlds have forgotten. She sees them with marginal warmth or interest, and indulgence of thoughts for the mind of a faded and listless god. Maybe she has transformed. Who she was and who she is, she must be higher now. She cherishes a truth she can only pray that others would understand, though if they will not, she has only chosen to watch the world. Yet, though she watches as passively, she knows she has given them everything. Outside her purview, a philosopher and satellite wander. Beneath it, a horned woman tends to precious memories. A woman with a flower in her eyes trudges through silent lands. It is in vain, it is in vanity. Arcaea now is vanity, and that is better than the alternative. Better than the world which spits at you. Better than yourself, who loathes your very way of being. Living to love being alive, and succumbing to vanity. Reality, in all of its facets, is an empty, worthless, and inconsequential thing. The only thing one could ever want would be to take what one can out of it. Take pleasure, take love, take hope, take power. And with it, Hikari believes this: one has no need to do anything. Take, live, and sincerely love being alive. Love that, though not even for 1,000 years, nor even 1,000 more, will life ever mean a thing. After all, reality marches on with no discernible end in store, and Arcaea, specifically, was never anything more than a vessel for memories. Incorporeal, contained, silent memories, where the outside remains unseen, unnoticed, and unscarred for. And those memories will exist forever here in that silence, together with those lost lives Hikari has saved, and with her turning no eye to those lives as always. Because here there is no memory unseen, no emotion not felt. This is all, which light shines down upon and which light grants. It is for happiness, it is for eternal peace. Unlike in any life you might have left behind, this she loves, this Arcaea, given the lost lives with neither favor nor condemnation. And so, like this, the wheel of fate here continues to turn, while no destiny waits beyond. Hikari sits among dust and blood. I see her there. Her folly has ruined her. Self-pity has ruined her. As she gazes through her fingers, her hands still on her face, she finds once more the sight of you, my second self, dead. And the apathy which brought about your death, the apathy which brought about this all, must be threatening to encroach again. I know it. The girl in white and red can feel it. She can feel that she was meant for this, that you were meant to die, and she was meant to kill you. Her back relaxes. The world itself, Arcaea, she can likely feel tension releasing throughout it. Relief. The disorder is gone. It's safe now. But I can hear too, something like a whisper, easing into her heart, seems to ask her to embrace the state, to embrace herself and embrace Arcaea. However, Taritsu. She whispers something to herself, a name. Her voice is shaking, barely audible throughout her crying. What did you mean? That our names, here, were those? She falls silent and seems to wonder. The whisper comes again, telling her if you want it, those answers will arrive. This place, it's an archive to all memory. And yet still, she remains silent. Beneath her building apathy is a sheer and shining hatred. She cannot stop hating herself. Obviously not. After all that's happened, how could she allow an ending like this? What would it mean? What would it mean for her? She who walked here could never accept it. With nausea eating at her stomach, she clenches her jaw. Hikari puts her hand to the dirt and sand below her and lurks up onto her knees. Her arm relaxes, like a cold sensation has woven up the limb. I can feel it, Hikari mutters as her eyes slowly close, her voice still hoarse. Paradise for someone scared, tired, and weak. She swallows the dry nothingness in her mouth. Opening her eyes, she grabs up sand and begins to rise to her feet, as much of it pours out from between her fingers. I don't know what to do, Hikari goes on, but would it be right of me to let you hold me again? It absolutely wouldn't. I don't want this. I don't want it. Hikari suddenly bends over, gripping her stomach and pushing her other hand against her mouth. She sways heavily. Her refusal seems to be enough to make the world recognize her once more. As she holds her mouth shut, her eyes wide in fear, she suddenly winces. I can hear too. A sharp noise flying suddenly through her ears, through her head. And inside her heart again, no longer a whisper, but almost a vibrating below, a silent yet powerful voice filling her and saying, "Decide and speak your heart's intent. Speak my..." As she is, Hikari is nothing but a girl moved by her heart, and it is heart that brought her here, long before she first opened her eyes. I don't really care. I just find it very funny and ironic that this new heart would undo it all in a single beat. Her answer, after her breathing has become shallow, after her heart has trembled long past a minute, is ultimately clear and resonant. My intent is to reverse. I have to bring her back. This world, it doesn't make any sense. You think I'd die for it? You think I'd let someone else die for it? I can't, I won't. Whatever I need to do, whatever I need to give up, I sacrifice it all for that. She holds the earth in her palm firmly, before throwing her hands out and scattering the sand. She declares, "I die if it means I can change all this." The word's heart beats, and its sound silences her cold. It would never give her up. It will not. The voice fills her again, and its sentiment and knowledge enters her chest and runs to her fingertips. It says, "You cannot die. You were born here to live, and living is what you chose." Hikari knows this, and guilt, apology, forces tears to well in her eyes. But the word's heart beats again before she can cry. "Do not die," says Arcaea. "Only let it end." And so her lips tighten, tears break past her eyelid and trace down her cheek as she nods. Her heart beats again, and like that, Arcaea begins to lose its slide. And in doing so, it floods into her, flows into her hands and heart. It drives her down, it nearly causes her to collapse. For that while, memories flash across her eyes, but I can tell they are memories ignored. Her eyes fixed upon your lifeless corpse instead. I think all she knows now is what she can do, and I can feel myself being tugged there already. Down, down, down to where you were slain. Does she truly understand what it is she is abandoning? Does she truly understand what is ending by this? I don't know. You won't either. Actually, if she's taking me, then will I remember any of this? Will I understand? No, probably not, but she seems so sure of herself now. I'm going to let that heart of hers be the beacon for whatever comes after. I trust it. You would too, wouldn't you? After all, you were right. The two of them are completely different. Taritsu! I'll be going now. But don't worry, I will surely take you with me. The skies are forced down again, and the earth rises to her will, to die, and to make Taritsu live again. Lives and souls cannot truly be brought into this world of the dead, only their shapes, only their echoes. And to begin with, the souls of the girl of light and the girl of conflict were never quite ordinary. Truly, the world was not meant for this. Surely, the world will shatter for this, but it will do everything to rewrite it all, or at least try. It would need both the girl in black's first soul and what fragment can be found of her second self. And now one fragmented soul calls out to a full other. Swiftly, that other soul is torn from beyond the pale. A tornado flies around Hikari then, rippling a veil of reality around her apart in a torrent of shadow and light. Arcaea remembers the other girl, and at Hikari's command, those memories come rushing back as glass. They seem almost instantly born, or perhaps they have always been there. Will they even suffice? Can this world weave two fractured souls? It will. The rules do not matter. Hikari will make it so, with his memories of the girl named Taritsu. Glinting through the storm, those glass memories come swiftly. There was a girl here once, who walked the lands in agony, a girl dogged mercilessly by sorrow and grief, yet she strode onward to save herself. To save herself and to grasp freedom, she had only ever wished for one thing, the chance to have some reason to smile, to make this world a better place. She was the girl who stood and faced it, even if better would mean turning this world over. The memories flash across Hikari's eyes, distracting her even more from her own encroaching recollections. Few of the other girls' tears passed through the storm. Much of her pain seems to have been forgotten. It seems so, but in truth, as a soul of light, still pushing away the cruel truths of that soul as she is, it is all Hikari can do to find even the fleeting moments of the other girls' sincerest despair. The rest, the longer of them, lie beyond her grasp. However, knowing where the truest pain had led the girl in black, Hikari gives up that sorrow, and so too gives up the moments that they met, which she cannot find. The Taritsu born of this all will be one who has not seen the true depths of her plight, but will still know herself as one who was born and lived in the midst of struggle. New energy booms out from Hikari. 4 columns of light, immense fonts of power, erupt from the ground. It is the world protecting her, as the shadow soul to which she called finally descends. She almost fails to recognize it as it approaches. What floats before her and begins to block the sky is something like death, the immense and chilling shape of a phantom that gently slows as it nears. And there, at once, the dark begins to flow into the rotating glass. There she truly comprehends it. With a firm nod, she eases the process, guiding soul to glass. The lost soul of Taritsu before thus becomes the living essence of the new body to come, with that of Taritsu after stabilizing the rest of the shell. The shaking beneath Hikari's feet becomes almost too much to bear. Hikari remains as still as she is able, and steadfastly directs the new life between her hands. With a thunderous groan, she feels the world bending in agony, and yet she holds on to her will. Without being deterred, in her heart she reaffirms her vow. She twists the core of the world itself. It too will fuel the rebirth of a fallen deity. Like this, finally, once absolute rules are rewritten, and with Hikari's sound and silent order, new death spikes solidly into that core. In an overwhelming pulse of light and shadow, Arcaea begins to die. The wish that made existence is overturned. The skies run rapid overhead, and what light remains of this reality cascades to her from the ethery horizon. As she pushes the crafted soul into Taritsu's now floating and deeply engulfed body, with sweat dripping off her brow, Hikari pushes too the entire world. She channels the life of the earth. She abandons Arcaea. Below the now ending daylight, twin girls watch as clouds rush past above them. Below the half-night sky, the noble gazes at the rift slowly tearing apart the earth, and gazes above to see star after star fading. A girl who tends and cares, a girl who wanders and seeks, a girl who watches and wishes, a soul of joy, a soul of hunger, a soul of ambition, a heart of war, a heart of song. They see the end, as all the life of the world is taken now to the one distant place. And soon, Hikari feeds the last whiffs of that life flow into the body of the girl she wishes to save. Taritsu's form begins to drift back to the earth, as the life fades out from Hikari's hand. And as it does, the girl in white feels too that a part of herself is being lost in the current. When the winds die down and as Arcaea's sky above are left slowed, dull, she feels very light hell, and plants her foot down before she might fall. She tries to calm herself, trying to grasp what she sees, truly has done, but she can't, and overwhelmingly her thoughts focus on this. Is Taritsu alive? Dust drifts from the sky again. She does remember this. At the end, at that lowest point, nobody was there, and she closes her eyes to tears. She opens them now slowly, just as those memories leave her entirely. Hikari sees emotion in her brow. The girl in white holds her own fists over her mouth and her breath catches in her throat. For all the splendor, she thinks, it was all so simple. Too simple. Could her wish have been granted for so little as hope and effort? Hikari shakes her head of these thoughts. She steps forward, shaking. Taritsu's eyes open fully and blink once, before her lids fall again halfway. What are you? The girl is silent as Hikari clings to her, embracing her more tightly than anything else before in her life, and Hikari starts to sob. She uncontrollably cries into the other girl's shoulder, the girl who stares back in disbelief, unsure of anything. Many more rifts have been carved through the landscape. The light which once eternally poured from the sky has been suddenly and starkly dimmed. The world is wounded. And yet, Hikari's focus remains on who remains. Taritsu lifts her hand and places it gently upon Hikari's shaking back, each unknowing. The two comfort one another at the end of the world. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Hikari endlessly repeats. Whatever you did, Taritsu replies. You made it right, didn't you? So why are you apologizing? Hikari slowly pulls herself away, though she still holds the other girl. With her eyes and nose reddened, she gazes on Taritsu with misery and tugging elation. She suddenly buries her face in Taritsu's chest, and Taritsu holds her in return, softly. The scene begins to quiet, and the girl in black allows the girl in white to weep. They set out into the world of grey. For a while, Taritsu holds the other girl's hand to walk her forward, but it doesn't take long for the paces to match. She does not remember her tragedy, at least not the worst of it. And the black shards, they don't take interest in her any longer. For Hikari too, those white shards which were so fond of her no longer dance nearby and close. One has lost some aspect of dark, and the other, and the world, continued to lose light. Though, to smile sincerely, Hikari no longer needs the light of glass. The girl walks to a cliff's edge. They look out to the sea of land of lost memories, slowly falling to decay, and it will decay, it will collapse, fade, and crumble to nothingness. They stand there, not knowing this, and only knowing each other, foregoing the past and foregoing memories. Taritsu looks to Hikari with a steady and quiet warm expression. It is the expression she wore once, whenever able, with another life. Hikari, seeing it, smiles with the simplest ease. What awaits? What awaits could never matter. The sense of completeness they each feel cannot be shaken. And, implicitly, Hikari knows this journey is at its end. The road to the future lies ahead, and there a new journey will begin. She takes the time to acknowledge that she cannot know what precisely the journey will bring. She can never know what might happen. She acknowledges this and closes her eyes to another thought. Did she know before where her steps would take her? She only always stepped forward. If you've chosen life, then choose to live. Live in this world. See this world. Feel it and truly accept every last moment. With this sentiment, she chooses to hold firm. She lets her eyes open and she breathes in the air. The unknowable wind ahead. The girl beside her, the faces she has not seen, and the hidden places beyond. She holds all of it close to her heart. She takes Taritsu's hand, because they will go on.
Shoo